Monitors off. Well, there you have it. It's Friday. Yes, it's Black Friday today, the 25th of November. Everybody is going crazy about the sales pitches here in the country from all over the country. My name is Elvis Preslin.
And I'm Renee Vest.
And Kendall Makamate is there in the corner. He'll be with us in a short while. Now, remember that we're going to talk about this a little bit later. But first, our focus today is during the festive season where we want you to be safe. But today, it's also the launch of the 16 days of activism against women and children, of no violence, that is. So we're asking a question to you today, Renee.
Yes, that's quite right. We want to know, should 16 days of activism be more focused on young men?
Well, that's the question we have for you, but we've also been bombarded about adverts about Black Friday, and it has begun, so we're conducting this poll. So we want to know from you, if you look here.
Yes, is Black Friday really worth it?
So far, 23% of you are saying no, 10% are saying I'm already in the queue waiting to do my purchases.
40% say they're broke, and 27% say I just don't care.
Well, we also have a little video there in the background showing you what it looks like at some of the malls. Look at some of the picture. Let's see if we can get it up. And there we go. Look at that.
Well,
people are rushing.
Chaos.
People are rushing through the malls, getting to purchase stuff. Look at that. It's absolutely crazy. Look at that's at Pick and Pay, I believe, where people are going absolutely crazy, grabbing trolleys and rushing in. There's queues all over the place. It's absolute madness. That's Black Friday for you. Well, we'll talk about that. That's the poll. Please let us know if you're in a queue, if you are broke today, or whether you are buying your stuff. And is it really worth it? Let us know what's on your mind. But let's take a look at your news headlines. The first of three international ratings agencies will announce today if South Africa's credit rating will be downgraded. The National Executive Committee of the ANC is expected to hold a follow-up meeting with the more than 100 veterans today. And President Jacob Zuma has urged the police to treat cases of violence against women and children with empathy, seriousness and urgency. Those are all your headlines, but before we get to the news with Renee, let's find out from Kendall Makamate. What's happening on the sports front, Kendall?
No, good morning. Before we get to that, that looked like absolute mayhem, that mad rush to try and get groceries on account, apparently, because Pick and Pay is now giving credit to people to buy food.
I tell you, it's getting worse by the day.
Yeah, no, but besides that, we also have a very interesting thing happening out in Adelaide. We've got a massive match on the go between the Proteas as well as Australia. Proteas trying to get a series whitewash. The Australians trying to make sure that they do not. And we're hoping to be able to bring you live pictures right now as we go. Usman Khawaja and the Captain Smith have been mounting a stiff challenge to that bid by the South Africans to actually do a series whitewash. Let's take some live commentary coming out of Adelaide for just 1 or 2 seconds before we carry on with the sports headlines.
Tucked around the corner this time, so no settling at all, as Tom Moody's said.
Right now, that's fantastic stuff coming out of Adelaide right there. Let's carry on with what else we've got for you for the sports headlines for today.
He goes again, Khawaja. In front of the square this time and brings up his 50. Moves on to 52. Laps up the applause from the crowd. Beautiful shot.
The only thing we can do to get there when we play against them, like, we mustn't think that we're playing Egypt. I think we should take it as if we're playing Cameroon again or we're facing Nigeria. Like, to get there and just to attack, I don't see anything to go there and defend.
Bring out the calculators. Banyana are in desperate need of a win against Egypt as they try to stay in the women's AFCON after a poor start.
It definitely helps, yeah, to have been there, done that, you know, and so this is the third time that we're fighting for the championship and second time that it's gone to the wire. So so for sure that helps to feel more relaxed.
A showdown in the desert looms as the Formula One season comes to a nail-biting end, with Mercedes teammates Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton in a dead heat for the title. All this and more I've got for you in a sports bulletin about 10:40 or so. But for now, it is back to Renee, who's got the news.
Thank you very much, Kendall. Let's get right into it. President Jacob Zuma has urged police to treat cases of violence against women and children with empathy, seriousness and urgency. He will launch the global 16 Days of Activism for No Violence Against Women and Children campaign in Limpopo later this morning. Now, yesterday, the ANC Women's League launched its drive in Alexander Township, north of Johannesburg. League members from across the country met to discuss their plans for the 16-day campaign. Now, they visited the family of a young girl swept away by floods 2 weeks ago. The League said while there is progress in addressing the problem of violence against women, a lot still needs to be done.
Whilst we celebrate the decline in violent crimes, for us as the Women's League, one incident of crime is one too many, as the victims of violence are human beings. And at the most, violence directly and indirectly affects women and children than men. As we appreciate the gradual decrease in crime against women and children, it is our firm belief that more needs to be done in relation to sex crimes, which includes sexual assault and rape.
Now, President Jacob Zuma has urged police to treat cases of violence against women and children with empathy, seriousness and urgency. He will launch the global 16 Days of Activism for No Violence Against Women and Children campaign in Lebowa-Goma, Limpopo this morning. Now, the country is still home to high levels of violence against its women and children, despite a world-renowned constitution and laws that protect this section of society. Now, President Zuma says South Africans should work together to end the scourge. Now, for more on the story, we are crossing to our reporter, Criselda Lewis, live from Lebowa-Goma. A very good morning to you, Criselda. And what is currently happening there?
Welcome back to the Lebowa-Goma Civic Centre. We've been broadcasting here since very early this morning. And as you pointed out there, Renee, yes, President Jacob Zuma will officially launch the 16 Days of No Violence Against Women and Children campaign. And as we've been saying since this morning, most importantly, government looking at other strategies to deal with the scourge by launching the national dialogues here in Limpopo, where government will now go to every single community around the country to try and get the experiences of those who've been affected by violence and abuse. Now, these national dialogues are also aimed at looking at the South African family law and how accessible it has been to these victims of violence and abuse. And of course, government would want to, in that engagement, try and see what solutions it can get from these victims of violence and abuse in trying to bolster the efforts it's made since 2008 when it adopted this strategy in order to try and get rid of the scourge. Now, we're expecting President Jacob Zuma in the next few minutes perhaps to arrive here at the Civic Centre, where he will officially launch this campaign. But we're still looking at really alarming statistics in South Africa, despite the stringent efforts that government has made to try and get rid of the scourge. If we look at the 2016, for example, study that was done by the Centre for Justice and Crime Prevention, indicating that the cases of reporting on these incidents has really increased. But the numbers themselves, if we do look at them, indicating that close to 400,000 of young people by the age of 17 may have been victims of sexual abuse. Let's chat now to the Minister for Women in the Presidency, Susan Shabangu, who joins us this morning to chat a bit more about what to expect, how government will bolster these efforts. Minister, thank you very much for your time this morning. We're in Limpopo this time around, and I'd want to gauge from you, first of all, why was it so critical for you to bring this campaign to Limpopo this time around?
Well, I must say that I thought it's important for us to come to Limpopo as one of the provinces in South Africa. And I think we all know that we had a lot of challenges around Limpopo, hence also the rural community. It's one of the provinces in our country which is highly rural. And all the time when we deal with such campaigns, we end up in the cities or in urban areas. So it's very, very important to be inclusive in our approach, make sure that all people in our countries, we are able to reach out to them. That is why we're moving away from events into national dialogues and going to meet with the various communities, understand the challenges they're facing when it comes to law enforcement, understand the behavior, the pattern. That is why to this particular launch. But also we're bringing men on board, civil society, government departments, professional bodies. We have psychologists, we have lawyers who are going to partner with us in ensuring that this campaign does not become an event, but it becomes part of 365 days where everyone can identify and be able to be counted in contributing, in shaping our society. But very key, one of the issues we'll be doing in this particular period, we've also identified lack of skills. It's a challenge. So we're partnering with various sitters in ensuring that women are being skilled, young women, then it also reduces the dependency of men, which most of the time it leads to abuse. So that's the purpose of this campaign. We are starting here in Limpopo, we'll be going national. We already had trained about 40 facilitators who are going to be part of us. So in every province, every district we are going to leave a legacy where we can change the lives of women, but also bring hope to women in our country once more.
You'll be spending about a month in each of these provinces as you move from Limpopo to the various. I understand the next province will be in about February next year. As you try and engage with victims of abuse and violence, after you leave, obviously there is still the remnants of what has probably transpired for some over many years. Do you have the facilities and the backup in terms of social workers to continue the work that you may have done within those months in the various provinces?
We have the social workers from Government Department of Social Development. We've agreed when we move to another province, definitely, because the challenge is that we will have opened old wounds and we have to offer trauma counseling. We have psychologists. Their organization or association has agreed to partner with us in making sure that they play a role. So it's not coming in and moving out. So we will continue offering services of counseling, but making sure, because part of counseling is to see justice being done, and they will also be assisting. That is why the South African Women's Lawyers Association has partnered with us to offer pro bono advices and assist the women who have been abused or who are victims of violence, including children. So we are inclusive in that way. But what makes also this year become a bit different, we've partnered with men's organization. Sonke Justice is part of us, and they've said from their side they'll be mobilizing men to be part of the program and also understand. And I think what is key for us in South Africa, for me, we're not advancing. It's very exciting. It's very good that we're getting people coming out and opening up, very key. But it's about finding mechanisms of addressing that. But for men to be part of it is very important to understand what is the root cause? Why are they behaving in this manner and hitting people they so much love most of the time? What pushes them? So I think the issue of mindset, attitude has also to be addressed. I'm not saying we're going to resolve it in a year, but I must also say this process of dialogue will also link to the integrated program of action on violence against women and children, led by Department of Social Development.
All right. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for at this stage. The Minister for Women in the Presidency, Susan Shabangu, was saying that government is also, as it goes on, changing its strategies on how to deal with the scourge of violence against women and children. All inclusive this time is men, which will also participate to try and understand the behavioral patterns in these various homes where we see a lot of this violence occur. And the national dialogues themselves, which will be launched by President Jacob Zuma, is now taking the program directly to the various communities to try and understand what leads to this violence and this abuse in these different homes. So a change of strategy there from government, hoping that all of that will yield the possible results. Since 2008, when we adopted this program of dealing with 16 days of no violence against women and children. We'll certainly hear from President Jacob Zuma a little bit later on this morning on how government plans to bolster these plans. Back to you in studio.
Thank you very much, Criselda. That's our reporter, Criselda Lewis, live at the main event. That's the launch of 16 Days of Activism there in Limpopo. Now, we are asking you that question. Should 16 Days of Activism be more focused on young men? Send us your views at SABC Newsroom, or a message on Facebook will do. But moving on to other news, the National Executive Committee of the ANC is expected to hold a follow-up meeting with the more than 100 veterans today. The parties held a 3-hour meeting on Monday, after which they agreed to thoroughly discuss issues raised by the veterans. Now, the NEC is scheduled to meet this weekend, but will dedicate today to issues raised by the veterans, such as the general state of the organization. The ANC has been battling to speak with a unified voice after its poor performance in the August local elections. The party hopes the meeting will help bring the two sides closer to each other and point the way forward to tackle these challenges.
You recall that our stalwarts and senior cadres, they represented a package of issues. And due to the fact that we wanted to give serious consideration on the issues they are raising, not to rush through. And we thought that document, we must give each other time to look and discuss each and every issue they raise, because we regard the issues they raise quite seriously. And of course, you recall that there were moments where even ourselves as the leadership of the ANC, we raised issues back to the delegation of veterans. That follow-up meeting will discuss concretely. If we agree, we are in one mind in terms of the challenges facing the ANC and the country, we must equally be in one mind of the solutions. And we must find practical solutions. And I think those practical solutions can only come out of a very frank discussion, very candid and very honest. And hopefully Friday's meeting will continue in the same spirit of last Monday's meeting. Very frank, very candid, with the one mind to make sure that you strengthen the African National Congress and build its unity.
The first of 3 international rating agencies will announce today if South Africa's credit rating will be downgraded. Now, Moody's will review its Baa2 rating, which is 2 notches above junk status. Now, S&P and Fitch, which rate South Africa 1 bar off from junk, are expected to give their verdicts next Friday. Today's announcement comes as the Reserve Bank decided to leave interest rates unchanged at 7%. Reserve Bank Governor Lesetja Kganyago, however, warned that global uncertainties, including expectations of higher rates in the US, could create challenges for emerging economies like South Africa. Kganyago cited concerns about the increase in consumer inflation, but says the central bank also has to take weak economic growth into account. The move to keep rates the same was widely expected by economists. With the decision announced, prime lending rates by banks will remain at 10.5%. Former President Kgalema Motlanthe says land reform is one of the most pressing issues confronting South Africans. He was speaking earlier on Morning Live. Motlanthe is heading a high-level panel tasked with assessing the impact of legislations passed since 1994.
Some of the key issues is a question of land ownership, particularly for the African communities who were historically excluded from holding title deeds in recognition of their ownership of any piece of land and so on. Others, feel let down by just poor implementation of legislation. people who experience farm evictions, for instance, when they go to, and these would be people who have lived and worked on those farms for generations. And once ownership changes, they get thrown off those farms with nowhere to go. And yet there's legislation which actually protects their right to remain on those farms. So when they go into a police station, they find that the police are completely blank. I mean, they simply, treat the case on the basis of who the owner is. Yeah. And if you say, well, you are not the owner, they'll say, well, don't come and waste our time, please move along.
Well, the South African Police Service crime statistics for 2016 shows that which crimes have increased and decreased in the last year. It's a mixed bag there. Now, according to the data, overall crime in South Africa has decreased between 2015 and 2016, with 2.1 million crimes reported in the 12-month measured. Now, all general categories of crime decrease except for contact crimes, which remain stubborn. Meanwhile, the acting National Commissioner of the SAPS, Lieutenant General Komocho Paslani, and a delegation from the SAPS will visit the Colonnade Mall in Montana and Pretoria today. Police officials will also be officially deployed at the malls and at other malls and strategic areas which form part of the back-to-basics approach to improve visibility, enhance policing and curb various crimes which tends to spike during the festive season. Now, Brigadier Selvi Mohlala now joins us from our Pretoria studios to tell us more. Brigadier, very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning and good morning to the viewers.
Now, it's Black Friday today. Everybody's going mad. We showed a video earlier on showing people going absolutely crazy in the malls. But you have got a campaign that you are launching today. Tell us a little bit more about that campaign.
Actually, it's not a campaign that we are launching. We have already launched on the 14th the Save a Festive Season campaign, Back to Basics. But today it's the actual deployment to say that, yes, we are ready as the South African Police Service, and especially on the strategic areas and malls. And coincidentally, we found that it was happening on the same day with the Black Friday. And yes, those that will be going to various malls, like I've seen the insert that you just played recently, whereby people are flocking to the malls. Yes, they will find a large number of our members there to indicate that we are indeed ready for this particular moment. Because you would recall that, especially on the festive season, you find that when people are doing shoppings, there's a number of criminal activities that are taking place, such as people breaking into people's vehicles on the parkings and so on, snatching bags within the shops, especially for the ladies. So we're saying we are ready. We have deployed our members. They'll find large contingency of police members within various malls. I can indicate that the leadership of the South African Police Service today, yes, as you have just alluded, they will be at the Colonnade Mall. They will come and join us there, and then there will be, stop and greeting people, or those that will be shopping within the malls, to indicate and give them assurance that in these particular festive seasons, you are going to be safe.
Now, you are going to launch in Pretoria at the Colonnade Mall. Why that particular mall specifically?
Look, we rotate in various malls. You'll recall that in the previous year we went to other malls. So this year we decided to go to Colonnade Mall, but we hope that in the coming years we'll change and go to other malls. Actually, we want to meet as number of people as possible, different people, to ensure that indeed as the South African Police Service we represent everyone. We are not going to be stagnant in one place. We'll go from one place to another. But all those that will be going to other malls, they should be pleased by seeing the visibility of members, especially around Gauteng. There are a couple of deployments that you will see, the Mall of Africa, Main Lane, Maponya, Lakeside, and so on and so on. I would expect that in various provinces as well. you'll find large contingency of our members there to ensure that those that will be going to do the shopping today, especially because it's Black Friday, they should relax and buy with that particular thing in mind, saying that they are safe.
Now, there's some of the visuals that we showed earlier with people on Black Friday today. Absolutely madness if you look at that. So how many people, if you look at that, there's thousands of people rushing into the malls today. Can you give us the numbers at some of these malls that you will deploy in terms of your personnel?
We are not going to divulge the exact number of people, but it will be a large number of members. We've got enough members that we have deployed, especially for this particular festive season. It will be surprising. I would expect that most of our citizens, they will definitely be surprised by the large number of police members that will be on various malls. Because you'd understand, perhaps as I go through the festive season tips that you normally encounter, you'll expect that people are losing valuable items during this particular period of time, especially at the parking lots. You see, when people go to shop and there are big sales, there are mistakes that are being done, and criminals as well. They utilize this particular opportunity to say that while people are busy shopping in the malls, they break into their vehicles, and then the ladies, they've got the handbags. Some of them they are opened, and then they snatch whatever the items that are within their handbags. So we have deliberately done this to say that yes, this particular festive season, the community members must feel safe, and we should expect at least a zero reported cases of theft in the shops and break into the vehicles. It should be a very peaceful kind of a festive season.
Let's now go to the numbers, Brigadier. 2015 showed 2.1 million crimes reported in the 12 months measured. Now, theft and drug-related crimes remain the biggest problem in the country, with over 340,000 and just under 260,000 reported crimes. These categories, if you look at them, what measures are you taking to ensure that we don't have the spike in crimes, especially now over the festive season?
Look, the issue of fighting crime, it's a matter of the South African Police Service and the community themselves, or the citizens themselves. We would expect that as I'm here today and then talking to the viewers at home, they will take measures in terms of ensuring that their goods are safe. For instance, if you know that you will be out of your residential area, or you'll be visiting somewhere else for quite some time, we would advise, as the South African Police Service, that it would be better if you bring, perhaps, or you request one of your relatives to stay at that particular place, so that that particular person will safeguard your items, your valuable items. And over and above that, people, when they move around, they should take precautionary measures, have the contact details of the SABC at hand, and so that whatever the emergency that you can encounter, you'll be able to contact us. And if you can work together, both the citizens and the SABC, then we'll be able to fight this crime, and definitely crime will decrease. But if you can just leave everything to the hands of the police, it makes policing very difficult. So we expect that with the tips that we give to the communities, they'll take it seriously and implement them. For instance, we know that it's the festive season. There will be the stock first that will be sharing money or dividends and so on and so on. We would definitely discourage that the old method of saying that people are going to share cash. But would advise that perhaps let them utilize electronic transfers, mode of devices to share the money that they've worked out for the whole year. So these are the kind of the tips that we're saying, that let's work together to ensure that crime decreases in this particular festive season. I mean, some of the things we know, we go to the bank, we withdraw large sums of money, and only to find that you are not going to utilize that particular money on that particular day. Why don't you utilize all these electronic modes, like the transfers, or you purchase through your debit card, and so on and so on. In that particular way, it would be more safer, and you are likely going to have your money. By the end of the festive season, you'll thank yourself for not losing the money that you have worked hard for the whole year.
Brigadier, just briefly, what number or which numbers can people use when they are in trouble? Because there was a young lady that assisted another lady that was thrown out of a car on the highway, and she tried to call 10-111, no response. What number should people call if they need assistance from the police?
The number that we encourage people to call is exactly the very same number, the 10-111. We have picked up that particular complaint, and then it has been attended to, and we hope our members of the 10-111 as well, they are aware of that. But over and above that, one thing that need to be brought to the attention of the viewers is sometimes we find that some people are phoning 10-111 without necessarily seeking assistance of that 10-111, and at the end of the day, you find that our lines are so congested. We also request the citizens not to abuse that particular number, but you utilize it when you definitely in need of help. But over and above that, it's not only the 10-111 number that one need to have. We are encouraging the community members to have the emergency service numbers, the EMS numbers, so that whenever you need an ambulance, it will be advisable to directly call the emergency services rather than going through the 10-111, because we'll still have to phone the emergency service number. So have those particular numbers at handy so that they can assist you when you urgently need them.
Brigadier, thank you so much for your time and joining us on the line.
I thank you very much, and I wish each and every citizen of this particular country a safer festive season.
Brigadier Selby Mutlala from the SAPS joining us there, giving us the latest and, of course, some tips for you. But let's see what you have to say about this Black Friday, whether it's worth it or not. Renee will give you some trends, and then, of course, we'll also take a look at what is happening on our poll that we're asking you whether or not Black Friday is worth it. It's over to you, Renee.
Well, thank you, Elvis. Yes, that is all the talk on Twitter this morning. Black Friday is the hashtag that's going around. A sales tradition adopted from the USA where shops lower their prices the day after Thanksgiving. Now, South Africans have already started to join in the madness, as we saw a bit earlier. And here is some advice from Greenpeace. It says, buy less, choose well, make it last. There's some good shopping advice there on the screen. And then this meme is captioned, how I feel about Black Friday. There's a cartoon. He's crawling back in. He doesn't want to be involved in any of those queues and the madness there in the shops. And even NASA is on the Black Friday today. However, they posted this image, which is captioned, it's Black Hole Friday for us. It's the 4th annual hashtag Black Hole Friday. Isn't that a fantastic image there? Then on to news trends of the day. Hashtag Abrahams. Now, yesterday, the High Court ruled that the call for the NPA head Shaun Abrahams to be suspended was ill-advised. And to recap, yesterday was Thanksgiving in America, but just take a look at this traffic jam. Can you imagine being involved in that traffic? Yeah, and we thought we had bad traffic here in Johannesburg. Well, maybe we will have bad traffic today because it's Black Friday. I believe that image there was actually in Los Angeles. Well, now yesterday we conducted a poll, and should NPA head Shaun Abrahams be suspended? That's what we were asking you, so let's take a look at what you had to say. And this tweet says, let's rather subject Shaun Abrahams to a fair process, citing good reason why we call for his suspension. That's from Muli. Now, Unati Grootboom said, I think Shaun Abrahams scored his own goal, so suspension will do just fine for the nation. And Marumo says, if he is suspended, it will be with full pay. Lachasa says, yes, Shaun Abrahams should be suspended. He is illegitimate. Those were some of your views that came in yesterday. Now let's take a look at our picture of the day that comes from Tiziana Baskiani. and is captioned, 25 years ago dies a living legend. That's Freddie Mercury. That's his honor. There you go. There's that picture honoring Freddie Mercury. And our comment of the day comes from South African Heroes and says, today we salute Pam Green, who stopped on Friday night to help a lady thrown out of a moving car on the N12 in Johannesburg. Hashtag bring back our humanity. Isn't that a good story? Doesn't that restore some faith in humanity? Well, it's time now to take a break. We'll be right back.
Proceedings of the Fees Commission has once again been disrupted.
We as a university do not feel that fee-free higher education currently is feasible.
This is a Mickey Mouse commission. During the commission, student grievances we're not a part of the commission in the program. So that is why we tend to disturb the program.
If you tell me that I can't leave, then you are keeping me hostage.
Some students demanded that UCT lift the suspensions and expulsions of certain students.
Welcome back. How safe is South Africa? Now, every year, thousands of lives are lost in crashes along South Africa's roads. Now, though lives lost in road carnage should receive the most attention from law enforcement and government, another aspect of these unfortunate events is that is very critical is the cost of the South African, or to the South African economy rather. Now, road crashes are costing the country billions, and not to mention the staggering cost in lives. The Road Traffic Management Corporation partnered with the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, the CSIR, and they compiled a report detailing just how much fatal traffic crashes cost the country. Now, for more on the story, we joined from our Pretoria studio by Dr. Mteta Mokonyama, the Manager of Transport Systems and Operations at the CSIR. Doctor, very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning and good day to your viewers.
First and foremost, tell us how scary is the situation and how much does crashes cost the South African economy?
Well, we've been carrying out research for the past year or so, and out of that research, using scientific methods that can be retraced, we estimate that it cost the country about 143 billion rand annually. That was based on the 2015 statistics. That is equivalent to about 3.5% of our GDP. So it is not an insignificant cost.
3.5% of GDP, it's a big cost, that. But if we take that in consideration, how can that money better be spent if we didn't lose it to crashes on our roads?
Well, there are a number of pressing, as you know, causes in the country. We could be better utilized in terms of restoring our infrastructure, healthcare, education, and other social needs. But unfortunately, the money is going essentially down the drain. And we estimate that about 90% of this is actually borne by the road users themselves. But of course, that's the bad news. There is the good news, which I want to detail a bit later. I mean, the numbers that I'm giving you are equivalent to about 37 people or so being killed on our roads annually. So in the festive season, the holiday period that is coming, you're expecting, if the norm takes place, we're expecting around 37 people to be killed on our roads every day. But that can be reduced. Studies have been done. It has been shown that we can reduce road crashes in the country.
Now, if we take a look at these accidents, where does the cost really lie? Does it lie with the vehicles that's involved in the crashes or the lives being lost?
Well, most of the cost is attributed to the lives, the earnings lost, societal costs, essentially, household costs. That's where most of the costs are. Like I said, 90% of the costs are attributable to road users.
Now, can South Africa afford to allow these economic impacts on the road fatalities and the circumstances involved with that? Because the objective of the NDP really is to address the triple challenges that we face in this country, which relates to unemployment, poverty and inequality.
Yes. Well, we certainly cannot afford this. But like I said, this is a problem that can be solved. I mean, firstly, like the World Health Organization says, the moment you talk about this as an accident, you are assuming or you are actually saying that it is something that just happens randomly. So we prefer to use firstly the word crashes because it's an event that is predictable, and we can use scientific methods to estimate and manage the problem. We've been running, for example, a program called Road Transport Management System, some pilot projects, which is essentially a self-regulatory mechanism in the heavy goods, heavy truck industry, where truck operators voluntarily say, we want to adopt proper practices in our operations. And we have shown through that you can reduce the crashes as much as by 60%. So it means it is possible to drop that number, that 37 people killed, to as low as 15 to about 16 people per day if we really adopt proper practices. But of course, it's not just the responsibility of one institution. We need multiple institutions to be involved, including society. We need to instill a sense of responsibility in our society. But we need to be aware. Companies, for example, right now with the end-of-year parties, they need to make their employees aware that drinking and driving is not good. It is costing the country, it's costing the companies. So the responsibility lies with each and every one of us.
Yes. Doctor, you mentioned proper practices. Give us a couple of examples there.
Okay. There's something called the United Nations Decade of Action, which aims to essentially halve the road crashes or fatalities by half from the base year of 2010, 2011. And it relies on 5 areas. It says you need to have institutions. Your institutions need to work properly. Your vehicles need to be properly maintained and managed. The infrastructure needs to be maintained. The user themselves need to be aware of the risks. And then finally, the post-crash management need to be proper as well. Coming to the institutions, you need institutions that are ready. They understand, they put investment, they invest in understanding the problem properly. It's a problem that can be scientifically measured. If you, for example, you still continue with the practice like we do of taking this as an administrative task or of just recording numbers and not putting proper resources into understanding the causes, then you'll run into problems. For example, if you go to a crash scene and you look at how the incidents are recorded, the causes of the incident, is shocking. We need to improve the training of our officers to be able to record these things properly so that the information that is used to understand, to to get to the bottom of the causes is proper data. Because with proper data, you will be able ultimately to identify proper mechanisms or responses. So, and one of the things that we suffer from in South Africa is that we tend to use opinions, people's opinions, to manage this. So somebody comes with an opinion and say, we need to have this operation, we need to have operation 1, 2, 3, it will work. But we need proper informed actions, scientifically informed actions, as opposed to just relying on opinions.
Doctor, I got to leave it there. Thank you so much for all the tips, and thank you so much for joining us in our Pretoria studios. That was Dr. Mteta Makonyama, the manager for Transport Systems and Operations at the CSIR. Well, be safe on the roads. Let's take a break. We'll be right back after that with the economy and Professor Raymond Parsons. What can we look forward to? Today is Black Friday. Would it be a Black Friday for our economy when Moody's get in the mood today? Find out after the break. This week has been a rich one in key economic data and important policy events. Statistically, we've had the latest figures on the unemployment and inflation. On the policy front, rather, we've had key developments such as the proposed national minimum wage of 3,500 from NEDLAC, a panel of experts, and then yesterday there was also the usual overall economic assessment from the Monetary Policy Committee of the Reserve Bank. Now, in addition, more details have now emerged from the latest integrated energy plan on the implementation of the nuclear power program. And later today, it's the big day, it's the Black Friday. Of course, there's the expected decision from the credit rating agencies, Moody's, on South Africa's investment rating. So to help us unpack these issues, we are joined by Professor Raymond Parsons from the Northwest University School of Business and Governance in our weekly slot of the economy. Professor, I beg your pardon. Professor, very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning, Elvis.
Now, first and foremostly, let's begin with the statement from the MPC. Any surprises there?
Well, Elvis, I think that the decision not to change interest rates was the right decision by the Reserve Bank for the right reasons. And when we look at those reasons, the sort of background music to the decision, I think there are 3 or 4 important elements. The one is, of course, the uncertainty in the global economy as a result of the outcome of the US election, what exactly is going to happen there, the impact on the dollar and so forth. And then Brexit, of course, is still a slow-burning fuse for the world economy. And then, of course, we have some of the domestic uncertainties in our own policies. So that was one important factor stressed by the bank. The second was, of course, the issue that we have a weak economy. Our growth rate is probably going to be about 0.5%, according to the bank. Next year, maybe just over 1%. So that was another aspect that was stressed. Then the issue of inflation. The latest figures this week showed a slight worsening which the bank referred to, but it said it would, for the moment, it would take that in its stride. And it still thought that in the medium term, it was manageable and that inflation would eventually subside within the target range. But at the moment, of course, it's tough out there as far as food prices are concerned and that sort of component.
So how does the MPC's latest economic assessment framework then frame the news rather for the week ahead, and especially looking at our unemployment figures now, the highest in 13 years. We're looking at 27.1% with nearly 6 million people now jobless. Where does that take us to?
Well, Elvis, I think we're all very familiar with the sad situation out there in regard to jobs or the lack of jobs. So that this figure should not have been a surprise. It's just a reminder of the big challenge we face. Now, the Reserve Bank did, of course, touch on that, but they have to deal with a number of economic variables. This was one that they referred to. I think the important point here, if we had to sum it up, we'd say, really, if we want to make a dent on unemployment, there are two things: growth and skills development. Those are really the two pillars on which we need to build the strategies to soak up unemployment and to create more jobs. Now, in terms of the National Development Plan, it says if you want growth, you must be nice to the private sector. You must create an environment in which they want to invest and create jobs. So that's one part of the challenge, and that's part of what we engaged in with the credit rating agencies to help create that environment. Secondly, on the skills side, we know there's been a huge debate about education and training. Here too, there has to be restructuring. We mustn't only talk about education, we must talk about vocational training. The skills we need in the field of electricians, of plumbing, all those areas where we desperately need the skills. And in fact, one could be a little cynical and say, if you really want to earn a lot of money, become an electrician rather than a BA in political science.
Now, you have said elsewhere that, and I want to quote, that South Africa is impaled on the horns of a painful dilemma over the proposed national minimum wage, and that the recommended national minimum wage of 3,500 is woefully insufficient as a living wage, but simultaneously generates serious concerns about the unintended negative consequences of pitching it too high. What's the balance then here, Professor, and was that minimum wage implemented to keep the wolves from the door?
Well, that dilemma, in fact, those are my own words. I'll try to describe the dilemma which this panel of experts has, I think, in a very careful way addressed. How do they strike this balance between a living wage, and no one is saying that 3,500 Rand per month is, but at the same time, given other realities, not to fix it at a level at which it would cause further unemployment. So that's the delicate dilemma that has to be managed. And I think what the panel has succeeded in doing is in arriving at a number which some people think is too low and others think is too high. That makes me think it's more or less a good basis for further discussion and negotiation. That's tremendously important. I think it's such a watershed decision for the labour market and for our economy. We simply have to get it right. I mean, if we get it wrong and we pitch it at the wrong level, it's going to do more harm than good. And I think that's why everyone should engage in this discussion. All stakeholders should come with their perceptions and their, in fact, perspectives and say, this is where we think it should be. And then a decision must be taken which won't command complete consensus, but at least must command a sufficient consensus as to what the way ahead should be on the issue of minimum wages.
Now, before we sing the song of the Moody Blues, I just want to touch you briefly. I want you to touch briefly on the nuclear power plan that was the revised energy plan that was released this week.
Well, I think it's also another important step in saying we've revisited this whole energy mix. We've brought it up to date. This is where nuclear power must fit into it. We need also to understand this is a draft document which needs engagement. I mustn't fail to emphasize that people must not complain about the government doing this or doing that when they've been given an opportunity to engage. Now, on this whole controversial issue of nuclear power, here's an opportunity. It's been pushed out in time. The issue of affordability is very much on the table, and I think it's important here too, because it's a big ticket item. We must also take the right decisions and ones that will serve the long-term interests of the country and not particular interests.
Now, Moody's will pronounce today on South Africa's credit rating, but, there's a number of people that say these credit ratings agencies are not neutral organizations. Their opinions are entirely subjective, and that they are private companies that make a profit by selling a product, by conducting rigorous analysis on behalf of the investors who, of course, invest and of course, take a look at that risk of that investment. So how should we view these agencies and, of course, today's decision by Moody's?
Well, let me start by saying that, of course, they are professional organizations. They seek to do a professional job. It is an economic assessment. It's not the gospel. It's an economic assessment of advice and their reading of our economy, what they think is good and bad, and the extent to which that is important, because they have influence over our borrowing costs if we are, in fact, downgraded and we get to the junk status. It means that your borrowing costs go up. So that's not good news. So let's not shoot the messenger. Let's take them as part of the scenario of helping us to take the right decisions. My point of departure is I want to get them off our backs. Frankly, we can't go through this cycle every 6 months, because that in itself generates uncertainty. So we really must take the right decisions because they are the right decisions, and in that process will avoid a downgrade. And that's the important challenge that both government and the stakeholders face.
We have mixed reactions from various analysts that say we might get. Others says we might not. We are in a 50-50. Your take on this and a final thought?
Well, Elvis, I think I'd like to keep everyone in suspense a little longer. It is a difficult call, although Moody's have been seen in the past as one of the more optimistic assessors of South Africa. So I would say, let's hope, as you said at the outset, that it won't be a Black Friday. And as I often say to the viewers and to you, when it's this important, watch the space. Let's see what happens.
Professor, as usual, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
your time. That on a Black Friday. Now, tomorrow morning, after Black Friday and after the decision by Moody's, here on your favorite channel on AM News, Professor Parsons will be analyzing Moody's rate decision at about 10 o'clock Saturday morning. Now, Professor Parsons is from the Northwest University School of Business and Governance, and that was in our weekly slot of the economy. We'll take a break and we'll be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the man who takes the party from zero to hero, from bland to grand, from average to, well, to way above average. The guy who toots the party train horn and says, "All aboard!" You are indeed a party comrade, and we salute you with a bottle of Chivas Regal 12-year-old blended Scotch whiskey, plus 2 glasses for just $279.99, exclusive to Tops at Spa.
Keeping you up to date with business developments.
There's no shortage of money in the system. There's a shortage of implementation capacity to actually get things done.
Always on point with news of the day.
May has promised radical social and economic reforms, fueling speculation over the future of current senior figures.
On the ball every time with all sports codes.
The Joburg side already have a quarter-final at home, and a victory against the Argentines will ensure home semi-final.
Accurate weather updates after every bulletin. Stay tuned to News Today at 3 p.m. from Monday to Friday on SABC News.
Did you know that Vilakazi Street is the only street in the world to have housed 2 Nobel Prize winners? Vilakazi Street in Orlando West, Soweto, southwest of Johannesburg in the Republic of South Africa, has been home to Nelson Mandela and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Nelson Mandela's house was a modest family house from 1946 and still maintains those features. Archbishop Desmond Tutu still owns his house in Vilakazi Street since 1975 and often goes to stay there when visiting Johannesburg. Because of its popularity, the street has an influx of tourists. Restaurants with local cuisine have mushroomed around it, creating job opportunities for the locals and improving the lifestyle in the area. Orlando West High School in Vilakazi Street is known for its creative role during the famous 1976 uprising.
Welcome, everybody. This is the second hour here on Newsroom. I'm Elvis Preslin.
And I'm Renee Vest.
Now, we'll be with you until 12 o'clock today. Today, we focus on a very important issue. It's keeping South Africa safe during the festive season. But today is also the launch of the 16 days of activism of no violence against women and children. Our question for the day, then, we ask you.
Yes, should 16 days of activism be more focused on young men?
What do you make of that? You can let us know on the Facebook page as well as on the Twitter handle. But as you know, today is Black Friday. People are going crazy. It's madness out there. I showed you a video earlier on of people in the, I think it was Pick and Pay. It's going just crazy, getting trolleys and buying food. So it's Black Friday. We're putting up a poll for you. We want to know from you, what are you doing on this Black Friday? Are you in the queue? Are you purchasing some of this stuff? Is Black Friday really worth it? That is the question. Why would you want to go out and buy goods on Black Friday, Renee?
Well, a lot of people are saying no. 25% of voters are saying no, it's not worth it. 9% only are saying, I'm already in the queue. A lot of people not in queues, Elvis.
I wonder what that queue looks like, eh?
39% saying I'm broke, which is actually the most we have here so far.
On the 25th of the month, people are broke, eh? So, yeah.
And 27% say, I don't care.
206 votes thus far, so you can still let us know what's on your mind. What do you make of Black Friday? And will it be a Black Friday for our economy? We just had a chat with Professor Parsons there to find out what his thoughts are. He said he's going to keep you in suspension. He'll be here tomorrow morning to chat to us about the decision. So let's take a look at what you have to say on social media. Let's find out, and let's take a look behind us here. This one from Siwapiwe says, unfortunately, no. To me, most people, they don't have the money to go and shop on Black Friday.
Even though there's sales, people don't have the money. Nazo says, no, most people don't have money, and we must remember that these are difficult times. We must save money.
That's a very wise comment there from Nazo. Historius says, people are broke out there, but anyways, it's a good initiative. If you can save, what's the downside about that?
That's quite right. Why not save if you can?
Yeah.
Justice for All says, if it will get you into more debt, definitely not. If you have cash to spend, sure, why not?
There you go. All right, these are some of your comments. Keep them coming. We'll read them as we continue today. So, yeah, we want to find out from you, what do you make of Black Friday? Now, that's on the poll that people want to know. So, let's take a look at your news headlines. The first of 3 international ratings agencies will announce today if South Africa's credit rating will be downgraded.
The National Executive Committee of the ANC is expected to hold a follow-up meeting with the more than 100 veterans today.
And President Jacob Zuma has urged police to treat cases of violence against women and children with empathy, seriousness and urgency. Those are all your headlines, but before we get to the news with Renee, let's find out from Kendo Makamate what's happening on the sports front.
Good morning to the both of you, and it seems like things are a little tougher than we all expected out in Adelaide for the Proteas.
So it's not a whitewash and it's not a Black Friday for them. What is it?
Nice one. I like the way you play words on that one. We'll find out exactly what's going on, because this is what we've got for you in the sports later on today. After an early wobble, the Australians mount a stiff challenge to South Africa's bid for a series whitewash in Adelaide.
In front of square this time and brings up his 50. Pulls on to 52. Laps up the applause from the crowd. Beautiful shot.
The only thing we can do to get there when we play against them, like, we mustn't think that we're playing Egypt. I think we should take it as if we're playing Cameroon again or we're facing Nigeria. Like, to get there and just to attack, I don't see anything to go there and defend.
Bring out the calculators. Banyana are in desperate need of a win against Egypt as they try to stay in the women's AFCON after a poor start.
It definitely helps, yeah, to have been there, done that, you know, and so this is the third time that we're fighting for the championship and second time that it's gone to the wire. So for sure that helps to feel more relaxed.
And the showdown in the desert looms as the Formula One season comes to a nail-biting end with Mercedes teammates Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton in a dead heat for the title. I just want to bring you more detail, but for now it is back to Renee, who's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. The National Executive Committee of the ANC is expected to hold a follow-up meeting with the more than 100 veterans today. The parties held a 3-hour meeting on Monday, after which they agreed to thoroughly discuss issues raised by the veterans. The NEC is scheduled to meet this weekend, but will dedicate today to issues raised by the veterans, such as the general state of the organisation. The ANC has been battling to speak with a unified voice after its poor performance in the August local elections. The party hopes the meeting will help bring the two sides closer to each other and point the way forward to tackle these challenges.
You recall that our stalwarts and senior cadres, they represented a package of issues. And due to the fact that we wanted to give serious consideration on the issues they are raising, not to rush through. And we thought that document, we must give each other time to look and discuss each and every issue they raise, because we regard the issues they raise quite seriously. And of course, you recall that there were moments where even ourselves as the leadership of the ANC, we raised issues back to the delegation of veterans. Concretely, agree, we are in one mind in terms of the challenges facing the ANC and the country. We must equally be in one mind of the solutions, and we must find practical solutions. And I think those practical solutions can only come out of a very frank discussion, very candid and very honest. And hopefully Friday's meeting will continue in the same spirit of last Monday's meeting. Very frank, very candid, with the one mind to make sure that you strengthen the African National Congress and build its unity.
Well, it is Black Friday today, and the South African Banking Risk Information Centre, SABC, has launched a safe banking campaign for the upcoming festive season. Now, the campaign aims to empower bank clients with information to ensure that they bank safely over the festive holiday period and, of course, look after their money. Now, for more on the story, we are joined in studio by SABC CEO Kalyani Pillay. A very good morning to you, Ms. Pillay, and welcome.
Good morning, Elvis.
But today's Friday. Before we get to the Safe Banking campaign, I just want to check with you in terms of what should people do. It's Black Friday today. It's madness out there. If we look at some of the video footage, if they'll put it up for us, you will see how mad people go in all the shopping malls. What sort of advice would you give to people to look after their money, especially when it's such a mad craze?
Well, sure. I think, it's very important that people remember that they need to know where their card is being swiped, that they need to make sure that it's actually swiped once only. Well, actually, it needs to go into the slot because it's EMB compliant, the cards, and that it requires a PIN number. And also, very important, especially with all the rush that's out there,
yes,
they need to make sure that they always cover the a point of sale device when they're putting in their PIN. They're not to leave themselves exposed, because if anybody gets their PIN number, you know, they certainly have the opportunity to be compromised.
And in this case, people would sometimes leave their cards right there in the store. That could also be a danger.
Absolutely important, and always they also need to make sure that they're getting back their card.
Yes.
And they're not getting back some other card. So those are all, you know, sort of in the rush of things, people need to just stay a little bit calm when they're making payment.
Now, we thought we'll have the little video up there to show you some of the rush that's currently happening that we had this morning, but unfortunately that will probably show it a little bit later. Now, the festive season typically sees an increase in the use of online banking and card transactions. What are the latest crime trends that you've observed?
Well, you know, nothing new, but we just thought we'd remind people about some of the things that have just been a little more prevalent at this time. We're seeing people being interfered with or being offered assistance at ATMs again, seems to be picking up. You know, the perpetrators interfere with the device, with the ATM, causes the transaction not to be continued with, and in that process offering assistance to the client that's actually busy with the transaction, and in that process either swapping the card or skimming it, and they do it so quickly that the customer doesn't even know, the bank customer doesn't even know that this is happening. They stand next to them in the process of helping, and they get the PIN number. So that's why we say don't take help from anybody at an ATM under any circumstances. Don't even worry about whether they're wearing, you know, bank logos and that kind of thing. Cover the keypad of the ATM at all times, and importantly, not just for when you're in South Africa, but when you're anywhere in the world. You know, so ATM, be on the alert, be on guard, don't let anyone come close to you. The other thing that we've also picked up, quite important, is that people, we talk about phishing and we talk about smishing, where perpetrators send you mail, emails or SMSs trying to solicit personal and banking logging information from you. But what we're finding in recent times also is that the perpetrators are actually making phone calls. So we call it vishing with the V.
Yes.
They're making phone calls.
And they're calling you to ask you for your personal details?
Purporting to be from the bank, and also, you know, they try to convince you that they're actually safeguarding your bank account and your systems, and they warn you about fraud. And they actually, in that process, get you to give them your bank card number, your expiry date, your CVV number, your username, your password. That gives them the right then to do transactions as if they are you. So very important. Under no circumstances should you supply anybody with that information, because your bank certainly won't ask you for it. The other thing I think also that we just wanting to create awareness around at this time of the year also, but it's actually relevant all the time. We're finding that bank clients are allowing other people to use their bank accounts, which is a serious problem, especially if it's the proceeds of crime that's moving through those monies. That particular person who's allowing their bank account to be used is actually complicit in the crime. And we're saying, please don't allow anybody to use your bank account to receive funds, and don't open a bank account for anybody and allow them to use that account.
Now, 97% of all lost or stolen cards are normally linked to fraud. How can people then make sure that they do? You've mentioned some of the things that they should do, but how can they make sure and ensure that fraud is not perpetrated on their card?
Well, for one, safeguard your personal information and your banking information. During this time, people are so busy at restaurants, hotels, shops, but also they have time to surf the net and to do online shopping. So we're saying just be wary of the fact that perpetrators, because of the sophistication of all the digital compromises on digital platforms, we're saying please look out again for HTTPS in the URL. Also make sure that before you put your card data onto that website to do a transaction, hover the cursor over the URL. And if that changes, if that name changes, then the chances are you're on a spoofed website and you need to exit from that site. Don't put in your card details at all. But I think most importantly, be alert. Watch what's being done with your card. Watch who you're giving information to. Don't let anybody see your PIN number on an ATM or on a point-of-sale device.
And if you receive an email from purportedly the bank that says, click on this link, what do?
Absolutely do not click on any link on any mail that you were not expecting. Your bank won't send you mails to say click on this or that. If you need to go into your bank's website, please do it by going into the URL, go onto your internet browser, type in the URL www and your bank's address. Don't click on any link in order to reach your bank.
Kalyani, I thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure, Elvis.
And good luck with the campaign.
Thank you very much.
We hope that people hear and take that advice home. That was the South African Banking Risk Information Centre CEO, Kalyani Pillay. Right now, let's go to Renee, that's going to also talk about how safe are we as South Africans and what should we do.
Yes, Albert, that is quite right now. I hope our viewers at home are taking some good tips today just before they head out to the shops. Now, Social Grant Administrator, South African Social Security Agency, Sassa, has warned grant beneficiaries of a scam that could result in them having a Black Christmas. Now, the agency says beneficiaries should be on the lookout for people requesting their personal and card details, pretending to be from Sassa. For more on this story, we are now joined in studio by Sassa spokesperson, Paseka Letsatsi. A very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning, Renee, to the viewers at home as well.
So tell us about the Sassa card scam. You've been having quite a bit of trouble with this.
We have been having this problem for some time, Renee. I think basically what they do, they would give you an SMS and say to you, you need to put in your details because you need to change your card. If you don't do that, your grant will be stopped by the end of November. So, I mean, they target unsuspecting beneficiaries, and some of our beneficiaries, fall victim of the scam. I mean, you know that as Sassa, we represent the most vulnerable people within our community. So this is a biggest problem that we've been confronting with. But I can assure you, we are on top of the issues. We are in collaboration with other law enforcement agencies to address this matter.
So the criminals, is this how they're operating, through a text message?
Yes, the same way, Renee, you know that you will get an SMS from somebody who says that you have won 500 million euros,
yes.
You know, and they will tell you that they need your ID number, they need your account details, they need all sorts of things, and only to find out you're being scammed. So, but I think this time they have targeted specifically the South African Social Security Agency beneficiaries. I think they're just taking an advantage of the sector of people which we are dealing with.
Now, how many cases have actually been reported so far?
We have people who came to the force and reported. Would not quantify it now, but there are some cases which cropped up, especially in the Northwest and so on. Yesterday, I got some of the SMSs from the executives who were showing me that someone says, no, can you please tell your mom that you are coming, we are from Sassa, we are coming to get to verify the information and so on. And I think we just want to educate our communities to let them know that, one, you will never get a call from a Sassa official to say, I'm from Sassa, we want you to give us your details and so on. Those we do not necessarily do. So I think our communities need to be wary of such activities and so on.
So how are you communicating with your beneficiaries during the festive season?
We are upscaling our beneficiary education campaign. I think we have started, we are using the SABC platform. Yes. We are going to interact with basically the schools to make sure that we interact with those who are going to school so that they can be able to pass the message easily to their parents at home and so on. We'll be going to the communities. We have got the intention to interact with the councillors as well so that we are able to interact and penetrate. We are also going to be interacting with the traditional leaders because we want to penetrate as many people as possible along the breadth of South Africa to make sure that people understand. And we know it's festive. Everybody wants to make sure that they scam unsuspecting individuals and so on.
Yeah, that's quite right. And now we understand that the social grant beneficiaries will be receiving their grants early this month. Is that right?
That's correct. From the 28th of November, we are going to open for people to come and get their their grants.
And why did you decide to make that change?
The change, we actually a caring organization, and we know that we are dealing with the old people, the frail, you know. So we don't want the young ones like myself to be pushing the old people. When we know Christmas is here, they'll be pushing and shoving and so on. So we just want to make sure that our beneficiaries, especially the old and the frail, do their Christmas without any hassle and so on.
Now, for your beneficiaries, what would you say they should look out for as red flags, especially on a day like today, where a lot of people wanting to go to the shops, there's sales, they want to spend, and they may be inclined to respond to those text messages that they've been receiving in hopes of getting their money out or getting extra money?
I think some of the things that we've been saying when we go to the communities, we want them that, please, do us a favor, keep your PIN code safe at all times. We know sometimes some of our beneficiaries would want to write the PIN code and put it somewhere. And once you do that, it's out of your hand. Someone can get your PIN code and so on. But secondly, our beneficiaries at home, they must know that, one, there is no way in which they are going to get a call from us as an organization to say, please give us your details. We need to verify certain things. If we need to go to a beneficiary to get certain things, we write a letter. They must come to our offices. In case they are frail and they are at home, we're able to go to them and say, these are the things that we need to ensure. And people must have their name tags. They must identify themselves when they go to a Sassa beneficiary.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today. Very important there for all the beneficiaries to listen to these tips over this festive season. Thank you
very much.
That, of course, was the Sassa spokesperson, Paseka Letsatsi, telling us how to be safe during this festive season. Well, let's go over to Elvis, who has some comments.
It's all about being safe and looking after your money, your card, online. Make sure that you are safe. Today is Black Friday, people. Don't go crazy on those cards. Save some money for the big days, they say. Now, we're asking you today whether or not you think that Black Friday is worth it. And let's see what you have to say on our poll today. In fact, there's a question first. Let's do the question first. Should 16 days of activism be more focused on young men? You can send us those comments at SABC Newsroom as well as on our Facebook page. But then, of course, we're conducting that poll to find out from you. Is there any comments that we've received on that, on the question, or do we use the poll? Let's have a look at the poll. Let's see. All right, the poll is there. Is Black Friday really worth it? There you go. 25% of you are saying no. That's 206 votes that are in. 9% saying, hey, I'm already in the queue. I'm not going to let go of my bargain. And 39% of you are saying, I'm broke as things stand right now on the 25th of this month. And 27% says, why should I care? I don't care at all. Well, you can keep them coming and we'll read them as we continue, and you can participate on the question that we post to you. Let's take a look at those comments that we've got on the question. This one from Unati Grootboom that says, it is important to focus on both the old and the young, because this affects all. This is on the question that we ask you, if the focus should be on young men in terms of education of no violence against women and children. Siafana says, yes, it focuses on young and old men that are abusing women. It should do that, says Siafana. I.H. Nazu says, neglecting a boy child breed low self-esteem, and as a result, it perpetuates abuse and a lack of understanding in what life really is. So it says I.H. Nazo. Let's take a look at what you have to say on our Facebook page, www.sabc.co.za/newsroom. Let's take a look at what we've got there. Take a look at what's happening on our Facebook page. Let's see if it's on the Facebook page. Let's run. And today we are seeing that Friday is the second and the last day of the public hearings taking place at the Johannesburg City Hall in Johannesburg in Gauteng on South Africa's policy since 1994. And then the number of children with HIV-related impairments is on the increase in Zimbabwe. And there's a need for health service providers to link their services with rehabilitation programs. This is what an HIV and disability expert said yesterday. And then Eskom has threatened Zimbabwe that it will shut down its power supply if it does not pay its bills. Well, It's going to be darkness in Zimbabwe if you don't pay your bills, so says Eskom. It's going to be a dark Friday in Zimbabwe. Those are the comments on our Facebook page. You can find it if you log on and find some more of the stories that we have there. Let's then now take a look at the front pages of the various newspapers from around the globe, and we start off in Israel. The Jerusalem Post reports that Israel continues to battle fires in different parts of the country this morning, with outbreaks reported in Beit Meir in the Jerusalem Hills and near Kiryat Gat in the south of the country. Moving to the United Kingdom, The Guardian says that workers in Britain face the longest squeeze on their pay for 70 years as Brexit knocks wage growth and stokes inflation, a leading think tank has said. And then finally, in China, the South China Morning Post reports that Hong Kong has been pitched into the choppy waters of the South China Sea diplomacy after it interrupted 9 Singapore-bound armored personnel carriers on a container ship from Taiwan. Well, those are your newspapers from around the globe. We will take a short break, and we'll be right back after that.
Black Friday weekend at Macro with hundreds of deals that are too big for Friday only. Get the Terrace Leisure Saturn 590 4-burner gas fry, only 2,999. Save 2,000 rand. A Hisense 220-litre fridge with top freezer, only 1,899. Save 900 rand. And the LG 55-inch smart UHD LED TV for 9,999. Save 3,000 rand. Don't miss Macro's Black Friday weekend. This Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Save up to 45% on selected in-store and online deals. Macro. Big on life.
We're still talking about saving. Yes, it's festive season. It's Black Friday today. Everybody's going crazy, right? Festive season, and it's a time for giving. We know that, and for sharing. And occasionally when there's more, the more is not the merrier, they say. And when spending in South Africa may very well be at its all-time high, but with this being the end of the year, we can't ignore the fact that a new year also awaits around the corner. And that's the bad part. They call it January. Unfortunately, this is when things for many become less cheerful, with bills and expenses that weren't adequately planned and saved for. Now, overspending during the festive season and not putting away money for obligations such as school fees, remember those, or fixing the car may now give you a bad start to your personal new financial year. In this case, the solution would be planning before the problem arises. And we start making those resolutions to never and never again. And that's through budgeting. That's how we do it. Estelle Scholz-Marais, who is the head of Marketing Momentum, Retail Financial Planning and Financial Wellness, joins us to give us some tips. A very good morning, Estelle.
Good morning, Elvis.
Today is Black Friday. We've seen the pictures. You've seen what is happening in the stores. People are going crazy. They are fighting each other for the bargains. What do you make of Black Friday? Is it really worth it? We asked the question. There you can see some of the visuals.
Elvis, I was actually very glad to see that, you know, there were a lot of people that say, I'm not glad that they broke, but that they realized that they broke. And then the only people that I'm really worried about is the guys that's already in the queue and the guys that says, why should I care? Because, you know, with all of this frenzy, just now they get into the happiness of all of this and go and shop as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I was actually thinking this morning driving here that, you know, most probably we should have had this discussion yesterday
already, yeah.
To warn people because, you know, it is, people get caught up in all of the frenzy and, you know, the media also don't necessarily help. And, yes, I think you need to be very cautious. Don't spend your money. I know today is for most people payday. Be very, very careful. Make sure that you paid all your obligations. And then the one thing that's for me personally very important is from a financial planning perspective, you have to pay yourself first.
Yes.
Now, if I say that, I don't mean go and buy the beautiful shoes or the golf bag or whatever it is that your heart desire. I'm talking about saving or then making sure that you have that money put away for the time that things are, tight, not necessarily, the things that you planned for, the geyser that goes, the car that goes, etc. And for that emergency fund, you normally need at least 3 months' salary.
In
now,
advance. So you
in
need
advance.
to have, yes.
So now, if you think what it takes to save 3 months' salary, that's really, really hard. So now people today, it's the 25th of November, they got paid. Most people got their 13th check if they're so lucky, or a bonus. So guys, please, today, be very careful. Think of the things that you need to pay up front and plan for in the future.
Talking about those things that you need to think up front, because people spend now and they don't think about later. What are some of the dangers of not saving during this festive season?
Well, Elvis, the very first thing is I'm always thinking, because I have a child school-going age, is school fees. The clothes that need to be newly bought for the new year, stationery. Don't let those things catch up with you. Pay it now, get it out of the way. And, even if you think about Christmas, yes, Christmas is the time of giving, but what do we give? Yes. We need to give joy and time and prosperity and, other things than material things. So even make a decision in your family. Maybe we say we're going to give a 100 Rand gift this year. Yes, the kids can maybe get something else for the excitement of Christmas. But between us adults, is it really so important to give those expensive gifts?
Yeah, is it really worth it to give a 5,000 or 10,000 Rand gift? Why? Rather open up an investment account for that person.
Exactly. And especially the kids as well. They love seeing the money grow in their bank account and having something for themselves when they want to go and shop.
Yes.
So maybe put it in the bank account and not necessarily spend on the toys. Sorry, toy shops.
Let's now take a look at some of the tips and how should people go about doing that budget and making sure that they at least save something. Esther?
So, Elvis, I think something that's really difficult is that we use cards. We swipe cards and we don't necessarily see how the money decrease in your account. So I would say every month at this specific day, even if it's Friday and you feel like rather having a glass of wine and going out with your friends, sit with that budget, say, this is what came in, this is what I am responsible for this month, and even what I'm responsible over and above, because now we just spoke about the school fees, etc. Make sure that those things are budgeted for. Then look at the necessities and make sure that your bond is paid, your car is paid. Don't default on those things. This month is traditionally the highest month of defaults because people, spend and then come January, then, they default. So look at the things in a way of caution and plan up front.
Is there any information that consumers can get from somewhere that they can actually get guidance from, or is there a number that they can call perhaps?
Elvis, actually Momentum has done a lot of research together with UNISA. Now they are our partners in financial wellness, and unfortunately at this stage the statistics don't look well. A lot of people do not have even money in a normal month at the end of the month left. So there's no spending money left. So yes, on the Momentum website there's a lot of information around what you can do to help yourself. We have a lovely financial wellness program where you can go and test yourself and see against other people's and peers of your age, where do you stand? Yes. You fill in a whole lot of questionnaires to see. Yes, I am not budgeting, but the people in my group and my age that's financially well, they do budget. And if we talk about that, there's two things that people that are financially well have in common. Number one, they have a budget and they keep to it. It doesn't help you have that budget and you don't keep to it. And number two, they have a financial advisor and an updated plan. Now, if I'm talking about an updated plan, I'm talking about, we physically spoke about all the things that you need to have to plan for a financially free future. So even if you cannot necessarily do all the things that your financial advisors say, have that discussion yearly, half-yearly, and make sure that every year you add something to that plan.
Estelle, I thank you so much for your time and joining us in studio.
Thank you very much, Alvis.
Good advice there once again to all our viewers out there. Be aware, it's festive season, it's Black Friday, we know, but save your money. Estelle Scholes-Morea, she's the head of Marketing Momentum, Retail Financial Planning and Financial Wellness. You can go to the website, www.momentum.co.za.
Yes.
Well, there you have it. Let's go over now to Renee to find out what's happening in the news.
Yes, thank you, Alvis. Well, it seems everybody is quite focused on shopping today, but there is an important story today, 16 days of activism. President Jacob Zuma has urged police to treat cases of violence against women and children with empathy, seriousness and urgency. He will launch the global 16 Days of Activism for No Violence Against Women and Children campaign in Limpopo this morning. Well, yesterday, the ANC Women's League launched its drive in Alexandra Township, north of Johannesburg. League members from across the country met to discuss their plans for the 16-day campaign. They visited the family of a young girl swept away by floods 2 weeks ago. Now, the League said while there is progress in addressing the problem of violence against women, a lot still needs to be done.
Whilst we celebrate the decline in violent crimes, for us as the Women's League, one incident of crime is one too many, as the victims of violence are human beings. And the most violence directly and indirectly affects women and children than men. As we appreciate the gradual decrease in crime against women and children, it is our firm belief that more needs to be done in relation to sex crimes, which includes sexual assault and rape.
Now, for more on the story, we are crossing to our reporter, Criselda Lewis, who is coming to us live from Leboa in Limpopo. A very good morning once again, Criselda. And what is happening there right now?
Well, Renee, we're still waiting for the official program to get underway. We were expecting in the next few minutes President Jacob Zuma at least to make his way here with the Premier of the province as well to officially launch the 16 days of no violence against women and children. Quite pertinent, I think, at this time that this program is brought here as government has identified the Limpopo province as one of the areas where there's been an escalation in the number of these incidents taking place in the province. Now, when we try and dissect why this would be the case, we understand that it's due to a number of issues, including the fact that there are issues of witchcraft, where women are accused of participating in witchcraft, and that would then necessarily bring them under attack by some of their male counterparts. One of the issues also is femicide, where you see a lot of women who are beaten up and even killed by their loved ones. One of the issues that has been brought up as one of the concerns within this province, as well as the rape of old women by young boys. Those are some of the issues that have been identified within this province that government says it wants to deal with. Now, this is quite important because President Jacob Zuma will also officially launch the national dialogues. Now, the national dialogues are aimed at now government taking these programs and these conversations to the people themselves. This would mean engagement with people from all walks of life. We're talking about business people, people from the rural sector, people from the urban sector, to try and engage about what exactly the cause is of the scourge that continues to plague South Africa. If we look at the numbers, they're extremely alarming, despite government's stringent measures put in place, including laws that have been put in place to deal quite stringently with those who abuse women and children. There still needs to be a conversation that needs to be had about why, since 2008, when we adopted this campaign, why we're still having this conversation in 2016, where women and children continue to bear the brunt of abuse and violence in this country. If you look, for example, at one of the studies that was conducted, which would simply indicate that in comparison to women who face sexual violence, 70% of those do in households versus the 30% that is faced by men. And while reporting on these cases, we understand, has improved quite significantly by about 30%, you find that these reported cases are also escalating within schools, which would give an indication that the numbers themselves may also be rising within the school environment. And the estimates at this point, according to one study by one of the organizations, indicates that about 700,000 young people may have been victims of sexual violence by the time that they are 17 years old. So this really speaks to the concerned scourge within South Africa, that government seems to certainly be changing the way that it's trying to deal with this issue now with the launch of these national dialogues. So these national dialogues will start here in Limpopo on the 29th of November and will move to other provinces, we understand, in Mpumalanga starting from February as well. Now, the government will spend about a month in each of these provinces to try and have direct contact with victims of abuse and violence, to try and understand what the direct causes are of this and why this scourge continues in South Africa. But once the work then is done by government, social workers and other stakeholders will remain behind, because certainly old wounds would have been opened up if you are now going to engage directly with the victims of violence and abuse. So those social workers then will play a role in trying to find out what the direct causes are, and this would then directly, because part of these national dialogues is also to dissect South Africa's family law and how this has been able to assist those who have come into direct contact, who have been victims of violence and abuse. And perhaps government will take those experiences then of these victims that they will be chatting to and find better ways of dealing with this scourge.
Now, Griselda, we're asking our audiences today, should more focus be put towards educating young men? Now, is this something that will be included in the government and the official programs that will be taking place through these 16 days?
Oh, absolutely there, Renee. It's one of the ways that government is also shaping its focus now to try and involve the man in this conversation. So that's very important. That's where these national dialogues come in, because these dialogues will not just be dialogues with women and children only, but it's also to bring men into the conversation to try and understand what exactly the problems are. What are the major contributing factors to why men still treat women in that way? It's quite important to bring men into that conversation. These national dialogues will play a critical role in doing that, and in particular, I guess, in rural environments such as the one where we are, because you must remember that there's issues of culture that may come into play as well, where the woman, of course, is expected to respect the man and basically listen to a man who's referred to as the head of the household, where women would otherwise say they do not have a say, even if they are in an abusive relationship or in an abusive marriage. So these national dialogues now and this change of strategy that's coming from government is a clear indication to bring the male figure in a bit more into this discussion. And certainly I think in doing that, Renee, you'd then best be able to understand what the major factors are contributing towards the behavior of some men towards their women.
Well, thank you very much, Griselda, for that update there. As you can see, the event has still not begun, but they are still setting up, and we will be crossing there a little bit later in the program. And as you can see there, men are being included in the conversation this year, which is just great. Now, moving on to other news, the first of 3 international rating agencies will announce today if South Africa's credit rating will be downgraded. Now, Moody's will review its Baa2 rating, which is 2 notches above junk status. Now, S&P and Fitch, which rate South Africa 1 bar off from junk status, are expected to give their verdicts next Friday. Today's announcement comes as the Reserve Bank decided to leave interest rates unchanged at the 7% Reserve Bank Governor Motsetsa Kganyago, however, warned that global uncertainties, including expectations of higher rates in the US, could create challenges for emerging economies like South Africa. Kganyago cited concerns about the increase in consumer inflation, but says the central bank also has to take weak economic growth into account. The move to keep rates the same was widely expected by economists. With the decision announced, prime lending rates by banks will remain at 10.5%. It's time now to take a break, but stay tuned, we'll be right back.
A conscious move from being a street kid to being a barrister of note.
Keep on praying for me to make a better life.
A creative application of the mind on an essential need, water in wheelbarrow containers.
How about if we were to come up with an idea of an enclosed container that sits on top of the frame of a wheelbarrow?
With the sharing of resources, a boy with Russell Silver syndrome receives medication.
The fact that you just said to me, well, you're covered for next month, that's amazing.
So that's the medication.
For more inspiring stories, stay tuned to Bupilong every Friday.
Hello, 11:15, and that's time for your sports. I'm Kendall Mahamati, of course, and we start off our bulletin today with the story that Australia have consolidated their position on day 2 of the third and final cricket test against South Africa in Adelaide. Thanks to a century from Usman Khawaja, the Australians were coasting on 209 for the loss of 3 wickets at the dinner break, still trailing the Proteas' first innings of 259 for 9 by 50 runs. Seamer Kyle Abbott was the only wicket taker, scalping 2 for 31. Here's some of the highlights.
To him. Edged it again. Oh, good catch. That was heading down, and Elgar scooped it up.
That's out. That's beautifully bowled. That is, you bowl long enough in that area. This has been a masterclass from Kyle Abbott, and indeed in catching from Dean Elgar.
A full toss, put away. That's what happens. Batter's been in for a long time. He's not going to miss out on a low full toss.
Left arm of Maharaj would have been handy against the left-handed batsman, but hesitation, here's trouble, and a wicket. There it is. Partnership is broken. Really good calling from Quinton de Kock to make sure that there was no misunderstanding, and that.
Yes. A beautifully constructed 100 by Usman Khawaja. The long, slow burn to begin with, and then some cut and thrust. This is a maturing cricketer, one who may be an Australian cricketer for years to come. It really is a cutter par excellence. I think that very quickly the best bowlers will realise you don't bowl short and wide to this guy.
All right, I'll have you know that the score right now is 230 for 3, with new man Hanscom still at the crease on 26. He's doing extremely well, and he's partnering Khawaja, of course. Now, moving on to other news making headlines. Springbok coach Alistair Coetzee has made a total of 12 changes to the squad that lost to Italy last weekend for this weekend's must-win crunch game against Wales in Cardiff. The changes include 4 debutants in the squad, with centre Rohan Janse van Rensburg, wing Jamba Ulengo, and flank Uzair Kasim, all getting their first starts. Loose for Jean-Luc Dupria will be on the bench.
If media reports are anything to go by, then Alistair Coetzee
could have just named his final squad as Springbok head coach. The Springboks' end-year tour to the Northern Hemisphere comes to an end this weekend, drawing a close to a season Coetzee and the Springboks faithful would rather forget. Under Coetzee, the Springboks have won just 4 of 12 matches played in 2016 and are still looking for their first win on this end-of-year tour. The embarrassing loss to Italy last weekend sees a new-look backline. And with only a combined 40 caps, this is the most inexperienced Springbok backline since 1994. The backline also sees the return of Lions halfbacks Faf de Klerk and Elton Yankees. There is a further change at fullback with Johan Goosen replacing Willie Leroux. Strongly built inside centre, Janse van Rensburg takes over from Damian Lealandi, and wing Jamba Ulengo comes in for Brian Habana. The forward pack sees Lawrence Adriaanse replacing Vincent Koch at tight head prop, and Kasim, the injured flank, Willem Alberts. Adrian Strauss and Tendam Chawarira play in their 12th consecutive test up front, a combination which has been truly tested this season. This will be Strauss's final test for the Springboks after he earlier announced that he would retire from international rugby at the end of the season. The hooker made his test debut against Australia in 2008 and will retire having played in 66 test matches, 12 as captain.
Right now, Africa's first cycling team to participate in the Tour de France has spent a few days in Cape Town. This is part of its training camp for the 2017 season. The multinational Dimension Data for Qhubeka team arrived in Cape Town over the weekend and paddled around the peninsula. The squad for the 2017 season and its new kit was also revealed in the mother city.
They are known globally as Africa's team. The 28-man squad made history last year by becoming the first African-registered team to participate in the Tour de France. The team has a number of South African riders, and they say this week's training camp in Cape Town is beneficial for the team and individuals.
I have personal goals of myself as well, and it's always nice winning the South African National Championships and then to be able to wear the jersey in the international races with the South African flag on it. So that's one of my goals, and then to participate in the Tour de France again, to be representing South Africa.
In addition to the squad making history by being the first African-registered team at the Tour de France last year, another milestone included team member Daniel Tiklehamanot spending 4 days in the race's prize polka dot or King of the Mountains jersey.
For next season is we need to achieve more, get some results. Of course, I need to be a part of the Giro for next year if it's possible. So I was really working hard for the next season.
While the team races for glory and cycling prestige, the squad also raises awareness for the Qhubeka Foundation's World Bicycle Relief charity.
The work that Team Dimension Data for Qhubeka do for us is that they really help to raise awareness about what we do. So they've got a great platform on the world stage where they're cycling the Tour de France, all those events. And because of that, people become aware of us and they become aware of what we do and they want to support us.
The pedaling power team will be leaving Cape Town tomorrow. The majority of the cyclists will be moving on to Swellendam for the Coronation Double Century race. Carmel Lochmerg-Roberts, SABC News, Cape Town.
Just while you thought that all of the troubles that our national teams are facing would be over for the weekend, Banyana could face an early exit from the 2016 Women's Africa Cup of Nations. This would be the third time in their history that they do this. They're in desperate need of a win against Egypt and hope that Zimbabwe drop points against hosts Cameroon.
Banyana are probably still scratching their heads, wondering how they find themselves in this situation. Coming into the tournament, expectation was that they would not find it as difficult to go through to the next round. They are now in battle for second place in the group. With Egypt on 3 points, South Africa and Zimbabwe on a point apiece, calculations are simple. They need to win against the North Africans by a good score margin. But their fate is not completely in their hands, as Zimbabwe will be seeking a similar result.
They have a lot of confidence coming off their win against Zimbabwe, and so I think they are going to want to win as well. And so this is going to kind of create a game where it's a more free-flowing game, because if both of us win, we can both go through.
Their opening 2 matches should have given them an idea of how to approach Friday's match. In both the matches, they started slowly. It was only late in the second half that they were able to gain momentum. They face an Egypt side that is defensive. To destabilize that strategy, Banyana Banyana will have to get out of the blocks quickly.
They're strong now and they are playing football. So they can go there to defend, just to secure their space to go for the semi-final. So the only thing we can do to get there when we play against them, like, we mustn't think that we're playing Egypt. I think we should take it as if we're playing Cameroon again or we're facing Nigeria. Like, to get there and just to attack, I don't see anything to go there and defend.
Not a lot of changes can be expected from the team that played against Cameroon. The coach could, however, start with the experience of Refilwe Jane for Linda Motlhalo. Lebahantube, SABC News, Yaounde, Cameroon.
Now, staying with our footballing news, we have a small break in the Absolute Premiership this weekend. What we do have is we've got a cup competition on the go. Here's a quick look at the Telkom Knockout semi-final fixtures for tomorrow, Saturday, the 26th of November. As you can see, Iyalakoto will be in Cape Town over this weekend for their Telkom Knockout semi-final game against Cape Town City at the Athlone Stadium on Saturday afternoon. City will be without the services of defenders Robin Johannes and Tsepo Kumed, who are both serving suspensions for on-field ill discipline. The same goes for SuperSport Zimbabwean defender Onesmo Basera, who, after having received 3 red cards this season, gets to sit out 3 matches, which includes this one against Orlando Pirates. The matches all kick off, well, this second match will kick off at 6 p.m. in Mbombela. And Lewis Hamilton says he feels relaxed heading into Formula One's Abu Dhabi title decided this coming Sunday. The British racer lies 12 points behind his Mercedes teammate Nico Rosberg in the overall standings. And he only needs a podium finish in Abu Dhabi to become Germany's 3rd world champion. This after Michael Schumacher and Sebastian Vettel. While this makes Rosberg the favorite to win the duel in the desert, the German is still on tenterhooks.
It definitely helps, yeah, to have been there, done that, you know, and so this is the 3rd time that we're fighting for the championship and 2nd time that it's gone to the wire. So for sure that helps to feel more relaxed. For me, it's all about, you know, concentrating on myself this weekend, and I'm excited to go into the last race, fighting for the championship again with Lewis, you know, and yeah, so I'm just really focused on trying to get the job done, and I really would like to win this race, you know, and finish the season with a win. That would be awesome.
Well, if I didn't have those failures, then I would be in the league right now. So it's, yeah, pretty much solely because of those issues we'd had. For example, we blew an engine in Malaysia. If I hadn't had that, I would have won the race, and I'd be a lot of points in the head, and, you know, maybe 10 points in the lead or something by now. So, but, you know, this is motor racing, and yeah, the great thing is that, you know, I faced adversity this year, and I fought it, and I'm still, last race, still just about within a title shot. So I'm going to give it everything I've got on Sunday, and, you know, what will be, but at least I know how hard I've worked this year, how hard we and my engineers, my mechanics have worked, and, you know, we've been definitely deserving of winning a title.
And we'll finish off the sports bulletin with breaking news. Abatembu chief Dalutuma Mtikhaga has been found dead at his home in Pretoria. Mtikhaga was prominent in the move to remove King Buyelekhaya Dalindyebo from the throne. Family spokesperson Fundo Bobulengwe Mtikhaga says the cause of his death is currently unknown. He says the forensic unit is still at the scene. Dalutuma Mtikhaga has been at the forefront of the Abatembu King's arrest and incarceration. He was also supportive of Prince Mthandeni Mankunku's installation as the acting king of Abatembu. That's where we leave it for now. We'll be back with more news at the top of the hour. Stay close. You're watching Newsroom.
much. Weather forecast. But right now, President Jacob Zuma has urged police to treat cases of violence against women and children with empathy, seriousness and urgency. He's launching the global 16 Days of Activism for No Violence Against Women and Children campaign in Limpopo. Right now, let's go there live.
Binele pina ya setšhaba lona ba botlhe re kgopela re emelle bontate ba tlhobole dikuana tsa bona ba bontshe tlhompho ya bona. Over to you. Ha re emeng re ska etsa lerata. Thank you very much to our beautiful band of South African Police Service for rendering our national anthem. Without any waste of time, I would like to welcome all of you, various professions who are with us today, our communities around Limpopo. I will also want to call upon our Premier to welcome us. A kgone go ramogela re kgone go tswella pele ka mošomo wa rena ka sheko lena.
A ke go leboge Minister Shabangu, our program director, the President of the Republic, His Excellency President Zuma, Executive Mayor of Capricorn District Municipality, Councillor Mbe, Mayor of Lepelle Nkumbi Local Municipality, and all councillors present here, members of the Executive Council of the province present here, members of community policing forums, women and children rights organizations, baka mafateng a matelele, magoshi ma aparango majwara thamaga ba le go fa, madula mphateng a mšate, batho ba Limpopo le Afrika Borwa ka bophara, re a le reta, re a le tamiša. Program Director, I want to thank all these people congregated here for responding so positively to this very important campaign about the safety and security of women and children in our country. Today is yet another important platform for us to speak in one voice and say no to any form of abuse against women and children. We have come here to re-emphasize the message that women's rights are indeed human rights. We have come here to recommit ourselves to taking care and protecting the children of our country. The future of this country cannot be guaranteed without protecting and advancing the rights of women and children. Today, each one of us should raise his or her voice and say, count me in the struggle against physical violence against women, economic abuse against women, psychological abuse of women, the bullying behavior of children at school, and other abuses against women and children. This day is also commemorated internationally with campaigns aimed at raising awareness and bringing an end to the abuse of women. In South Africa, we have accepted that there is a strong relationship between child abuse and women abuse. Program Director, the message against the abuse of women and children is a year-round message. No one should be made to think that we are only vigilant during this period of 16 days. My apology. Every single day is a day against the abuse of women and children. For this to be successful, every single one of us must be a campaign against women and children abuse. All of us must join hands to rescue women from the web of untold sufferings of rape, sexual harassment, emotional, financial, and psychological abuse, physical and psychological abuse. The most painful thing is that women are subjected to these painful and shameful realities in the hands of the same people who have publicly vowed to love them. At times, children are made to suffer abuse in the hands of those who gave birth to them. If we know of a mother who's not taking a child to school, we must stand up, we must raise our voices and talk about that kind of person, because that mother or that father must be reported to the authorities. If we know of a mother who's not bathing her kids, we must speak out also as community, responsible community people. If we know of a mother or a father who abuses the money for child support, for alcohol or gambling, we must speak out as communities. We must do so because no child deserves to be with an uncaring parent. We must all raise our hands and be counted in the struggle against women and child abuse. Program Director, my task was merely to welcome all of you to this national commemoration of this activism against the abuse of women and children. I am confident that this day will help us relate better and find more constructive ways of resolving disputes amongst ourselves without resorting to violence and abuse. The future of this country requires that men and women of this country should act together to craft a worthy inheritance for the children of this country, the beautiful children of this country, and beautiful women of this country. The former president of the African National Congress, President Oliver Tambo, used to call them the flowers of our nation. As a result, Jonas Gwangwa also, Honorable President, released a title song titled Flowers of Our Nation. Let me pause here in my welcoming remarks ladies and gentlemen, to usher the President of the country, President Zuma, who is well known to all of us, to come and address you. I'm not sure, Program Director, as to whether this is the right time now. Honorable President, in this part of the country, we'll either say Kakamel, Shulu Shamadi. You're welcome to come and address.
Thank you very much, Premier, for those wonderful words. Ramogelegile, Premiera wa rona a re dintšao di bofile, re ka ne ra tlhobola le dibaki. I want to also take this opportunity to welcome our partners on this very critical campaign of 16 days of no violence against women. Recognizing our partners within the United Nations, we have the United Nations women who are with us today, acknowledge them. We acknowledge our partners' skills development in their various sectors. We acknowledge the deputy ministers, my colleagues. We have a Deputy Minister of Social Development, Harriet Bukopane Zulu. We have a Deputy Minister of Tourism, Togo Kasa, our MECs who are with us today, our mayors who are with us from Limpopo. We also acknowledge our MEC, Joyce Mashamba, Mapule Mukaba, MEC Toile, who's with us, Tutule, who's here today. We also want to welcome all government departments who have decided to partner with us as we begin a journey of launching national dialogues, but also a 365 campaign, which we're rolling out today to all provinces of South Africa. We have identified Limpopo as our beginning to roll out our program on women who have been victims of abuse. Our partner, Gender Sonke Justice, the Commission for Gender Equality, who are with us, we acknowledge them. And I want to say all protocol observed. It's not deliberate that I did not mention some of our partners, but you are all welcome to Limpopo as we roll out our program. We want to make sure we go to the root cause of the problems of violence in our country. That is why we're bringing everybody. Our church leaders acknowledge our Bishop Margaret from the Anglican Church, who's here on behalf of the Archbishop, Thabo Makhoba, who's with us today. So you all welcome, members of the media. Without any waste of time, I'm going to call our OTP choir to render a music item before we can allow our president to make his remarks.
Your
Thank you very much. Thank you for soothing the women and children during this very critical period when we commemorate the 16 days of no violence against women. May I also acknowledge Koshin Twanisi, who is with us. Other traditional leaders I might not have identified and seen, we also acknowledge them. May I also acknowledge our executive mayor from Skukuni, Udutsimani. You are all welcome. But may I also say this is an important day. We are beginning what we've never done in South Africa. We are here to once more try and find the causes. Why do we continue to have this scourge of violence against women and children not getting better? The very important message we are saying to all of you, it's not about the women as victims, but it's also about the men. Let's work together in finding solutions. And also let's go much more deeper in making sure our society is free and we create a society which is peaceful. That is why you are here today. As I speak today, we are here on the 18th year of this campaign. It's the 18th year. But we still see this scourge which continues to be prevalent. Few days ago, we see women being victims of abuse. And that's why let's hold hands. We've changed our approach. We want to work with the communities. Re batla ha re tlile yana Limpopo, re shome le di communities tse fapafapaneng ha re felle fela mo ditoropong re tla ilo fitlha le ko magaeng gore a ke lebaka la eng le etsang gore tlhekefetso ya bomme le bana e sa fele mo lefatsheng le la rena. President wa rona o tletse tseo tse ka sheko o batla o tseba ke eng re sa kgone gore go fele go tlhekefetswa ga bana le bana ga basadi le bana mme melao ya rona re pasitse melao e mentle melao ya Domestic Violence Against Women, Sexual Offences Act ebile re entse le dikhoto tse leng gore di tla lebagana le tlhekefetso ya bomme mme ha go fele ha re kopaneng setšhaba sa South Africa re bontshane re leke go kreya le go rarolla bothata be re shebaneng le bona re tebane le bothata be leng gore bana gompieno ha isa le bana ba tshaba bo malome bana ba tshaba bo abuti bana ba tshaba bo ntate yaanong tshwantse re kere setlhare rata ya go fetsa tlhekefetso e ya rona re le bomme le bana mo lefatsheng le la rona ka ntlha ga go senya sebaka ke tla gopela kwayara ya mopremiera OTP gape etle e re fe pina re emise president wa rona o emetseng setšhaba se sa rona e leng yena o retelang gore tshwantse re lwantshe tlhekefetso ya bomme mo lefatsheng le o tlisitseng di-departmente tsa rona ka bophara gore di tle re bontshane re tswelle pele yaanong president ke tlo kgopela khwaya ha wa e bona ke tlo kgopela ro ememo o ba bone ha ba go amogela gore ke wena yaanong o tshwantse o bue ke bona o ntse o singa ka sesero o ya singa o ba bone manje ngizama ukuba mongameli uba bone nawe mabakumise ngengoma.
Thank you very much, Director of the Program. I'm happy that you realized that we were in trouble there with the speakers and the light. We couldn't see them. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you very much. Bayesu, Dumelang, Abshe, Dimasharon, Nda. Thank you very much indeed, Director of the Program, the Minister in the Presidency, responsible for women, children, and many other important things that relate to women. The Premier of the Limpopo Province, Ndate Sten Matabata, the Minister in the Presidency responsible for women, Me Susan Shabangu, Deputy Ministers who are present here, MECs who are present here, Deputy Judge President of the Limpopo High Court, Judge Fikile Mokhotlhoa, mayors who are here from districts and other levels of municipalities, managers and councillors, members of the South African chapter of the International Association of Women Judges, members of the South African Women Lawyers, traditional leaders who are here, religious leaders who are with us here, members from the broader legal fraternity, leadership of the faith-based and civil organizations, fellow South Africans, people of Limpopo. We have gathered here today to mark this important day in our country, the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women and Children. We use this day each year to launch the 16 days of activism of no violence against women and children, and to take stock of progress made in fighting the abuse and violence directed at women and children. This campaign is about uniting all in our country behind one message: that women and children must be safe and must feel safe at home, in the streets, and anywhere in the country. Informed by our country's constitution, which turns 20 years old next month, government is determined to use all resources at its disposal to make the country safer for women and children. The theme of this year's 16 Days campaign, which says, "Count me in, together moving a non-violent society forward," urges all of us to fight this scourge of violence against women and children. This year's campaign takes the form of the launch of national dialogues on violence against women and children. About 27 dialogues have been lined up for the various parts of the Limpopo province to engage the victims and perpetrators. The purpose is to use the information gathered and lessons learned to prevent abuse of women and children and to raise awareness to all of us. Dialogues must be held in every province. The dialogues will provide an opportunity for government to assess its own law enforcement and social support machinery in order to enhance support for women and children. Violence against women and children manifests itself openly in serious crimes such as murder, sexual assault, domestic violence, assault with intent to do grievous bodily harm, or human trafficking. What is of serious concern is that most women are attacked by men they know. And in most cases, men, they are intimate with their husbands or partners. We are losing more and more women at the hands of their violent, intimate partners. International studies show that women often turn a blind eye to the violence in their intimate relationships, or sometimes prefer to live in denial or disbelief. They also live in the hope that the perpetrator will change and stop their behavior. The danger about living in an unattended violent relationship is that it interferes or it intensifies over time until it leads to death. Violence against women has been declared a priority crime by government. Women must not be scared to report the perpetrators to the police. As we meet already, there are horrific tales of violent attacks, such as the gang rape of a 13-year-old girl by 10 men in Nyanga, Cape Town. It is beyond comprehension that adult men can inflict such pain on a defenseless child. Other children are sexually molested at home by relatives in some cases. These are the types of incidents that should unite us all to say enough is enough. There are also cases of the abuse of girls in schools by teachers, some of whom even fall pregnant. Government appeals to parents and girls to report such teachers to the police and social workers. This conduct must not be tolerated. Statutory rape must be reported to the police. It is a serious crime against children. Women are also sexually harassed in the workplace by male supervisors who abused their positions of power. The workplace must be made safe for women so that they can perform and be productive in an environment conducive for work. Women and children must be safe and must feel safe in their country. We should, in the same vein, also step up our efforts to fighting sexually oriented violence perpetrated against lesbians, gay, bisexual, trans, and or intersex people. They also deserve to be safe and feel safe everywhere in our country. Bakwethu, sihlangene namhlanje ukuvula ngokusemthethweni uhlelo lokuqwashisa ngokuhlukunyezwa kwabesimame kanye nezingane. Sikhumbuza umphakathi wonke ukuthi kufanele sibambisane silwe nalesi sidlava sokuhlukumeza, ukushaya, ukudlwengula, ukuthumba kanye nokubulala omame nezingane. Lokhu kuyizenzo zobunswela boya. Lezi zigameko ziyenzeka emizini nasemphakathini eminingi. Kufanele ziphephe izingane kanye nomama. Omama nezingane banelungelo lokuphila ngokuthula nangokuphepha emphakathini. Importantly, violence against women and children is not a private matter. It is everybody's business. Neighbors must not keep quiet when they see or hear women or children being attacked or abused. Some families take a decision to hide the abuse of children to avoid embarrassment. These incidents must be reported to the police and social workers. Children deserve justice and protection from ourselves. We have legislation in place such as the Sexual Offences Act, Children's Act, Domestic Violence Act, the Child Justice Act, Older Persons Act, and many other laws which are important instruments to fight abuse. We urge all our police officers to receive women sensitively when they come to report the cases of abuse or violence at the police stations. A conducive environment is being created at many police stations so that these cases could be handled sensitively. The Police Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offences units were re-established in June 2010. Members of the units receive specialized training to deal effectively with the sexual offense-related cases. Police run many campaigns around this time as well, raising awarenesses of the services they provide. Every magistrate's court has a division that deals with domestic violence matters. In large offices, there are dedicated clerks and magistrates to attend to domestic violence matters. This is yet another indicator of the measures taken by government to fight the abuse of women and children. Women should not keep quiet and must use all avenues to report abuse and to seek help. Government has, through the Department of Social Development, established a 24-hour call center, the Gender Abused Violence Command Center. The center deals with issues relating to domestic violence, rape, physical abuse, incident assault, indecent assault, verbal abuse, intimidation, abandoned children, and non-GBV cases. A majority of cases reported involve incidents of physical violence. The call center handles 1,500 calls a day, and these calls are handled by 40 social workers able to deal with the issues raised. If this is the number of calls, it must tell us that whilst we think things are normal, in fact, there is a lot of abuse that takes place. And it needs us to stand on our feet to stop it. The center refers cases of violence to the police and to social workers. Women should contact social workers to obtain phone numbers or the nearest South African Social Security Agency offices so that they can be assisted immediately. Such centers are important as they provide a helpful voice on the other end of the line, especially when women and children are not comfortable with speaking to family members. The provision of these crimes, the prevention of these crimes is also important. Government socio-economic development programs are designed to improve the living conditions of all, especially women and children. Some of the interventions which are continuing everywhere by government include the provision of street lighting, reliable and safer public transport, water and sanitation inside the house, which create better and safer living conditions for women and children. Going to the river to fetch water or going outside the home to use a toilet at night have become risky for women, which is why government continues to provide these services in the home. Improving the economic status of women is also paramount in order to stop the financial and economic dependence on men, which makes many women vulnerable to abuse. Some women stay in abuse relationships because they are unemployed and dependent on the perpetrator for shelter, food, and all basic needs. I have instructed the economic cluster in government to ensure that all economic programs of government consciously include the empowerment of women. This follows the production of the important report on the economic status of women by the Department of Women in the Presidency. Programs are ongoing to improve women's access to land so that they can grow their own food and build their own homes. Women also need access to business financing and credit so that they can establish small businesses or cooperatives to generate income. The promotion of education and training opportunities are important measures aimed at empowering women and promoting economic independence. One of the achievements of government in alleviating poverty has been the social grants system. Many families are able to put food on the table because of the money from social grants. Government will also continue running victim support and victim empowerment programs to provide much needed physical social support. Government does not work alone in fighting abuse. We acknowledge all non-governmental organizations that support women in distress. They run shelters for abused women, crisis centers, and call centers. We acknowledge religious leaders, traditional leaders, and community leaders to whom these cases are also reported. We appeal to them to continue supporting victims and survivors of such cases. We recognize organizations run by women and men organizations, raising awareness and promoting positive role models for men and boys in the campaign of promoting safer homes and communities. Let me also applaud women in the legal profession for their participation in this important campaign. The Department of Women is working with the South African chapter of the International Association of Women Judges and the South African Women Lawyers Association to host the South African Family Law Dialogue as part of the sector's dialogues within the national dialogues in the province or in all provinces. This exercise will provide a platform for women in the judiciary, the legal profession, and public service to reflect on the South African family law, its implications, benefits, and challenges, and whether the laws are helpful or are helpful to women or not. Compatriots, let me emphasize that this campaign should not run for 16 days only. We must together implement our decision taken in 2014 of running this campaign for the whole year, for 365 days of the year. We appeal to every citizen and everyone living in South Africa that let us build a society where women and children are safe and feel safe in their country. All of us must play a role to achieve that goal. In other words, if we only talk about this once in the whole year and just use 16 days only, that is too little if you take the volume of these abuses. In fact, according to what I said, some police stations receive as calls complaining, it means on a daily basis, people are committing crime. And therefore we need that every day we should be on the alert in defense of our women and children. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and pleasure to officially launch the campaign of 16 days of activism of no violence against women and children. We wish the country well in ensuring the success of this very important campaign and urge everyone to participate in every community. I thank you. Rea leboga.
Mokholokwane, bomme mokholokwane. Ra leboga, re leboge mo presidente wa rona ha antse are ama lefoko of how do we need and what do we need to do as a country in fighting the abuse of women and children in our country. Thank you very much, President, for those words, but also the marching orders for government, civil society, faith-based organizations, our leaders, for us to continue to strengthen the fight of this scourge of violence in our society. May I also take this moment to acknowledge Khoshi Maubane, who's with us today, acknowledge our mayor of Tubatse municipality, who's here today. I think our message, President, your message is clear to all of us. It's not only a government responsibility to fight abuse, but it takes all of us. It takes a village to fight the scourge of violence in our communities. We are beginning with the dialogues today. Our president has launched it. We are beginning here in Limpopo, going to different districts, municipalities, in making sure we meet with our communities. We make sure the challenges we face and the outcome is informed by what goes on in our various communities. And I think to all of you, don't say it's government's responsibility. Ha re le yana, ha re tshwarane ka matsogo go lwantsha tlhekefatso ya bomme le bana mo ditulong tsa rona tsa fapafapaneng. Without any waste of time today, I'm going to call our mayor, our district executive mayor of Capricorn, Comrade Councillor John Mpe, to come and pass a vote of thanks.
Well, the Minister for Women in the presidency there, continuing with a program as President Jacob Zuma has officially launched the 16 Days of No Violence Against Women and Children campaign. Certainly, President Jacob Zuma calling on many of those perhaps who have been victims of the scourge that continues to plague South Africa, that government is there, the legislation is there, including the Sexual Offences Act, which could deal with such scourges in South Africa. Also calling on women not to keep quiet, those who are involved in abusive relationships not to keep quiet, that the necessary avenues are there to explore for the perpetrators to be held to account. And I think most importantly as well, on the backdrop of sometimes stories that you would hear of people saying when they go for help to police stations, for example, they don't get the necessary assistance that they require. President Jacob Zuma saying that these police stations are being made proper now to ensure that they are able to deal with the issues of this kind of sensitivity, and saying that domestic violence, abuse and many other scourges relating to violence in South Africa is not a private matter, saying that neighbours and those who do witness this kind of scourge, perhaps it's happening next door to you, you should report these incidents as well. But I'm afraid that's all we have time for here at the Leboa Civic Centre in the Limpopo province. Thank you very much for watching, and certainly we'll call on all our men and our women, of course, to observe this day and not just make it 16 days of activism of no violence against women and children, but certainly to make it every single day, as pointed out by President Jacob Zuma. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.